Thank you for the introduction. Great to be here. It's my first time in Singapore. What a fantastic conference and a great mix of people, both in the room and in the conference centre. We are one of the first of about a dozen uranium companies that are going to talk to you over the next 3 days. We're a pure play uranium explorer. We're located in northern Canada. Of those dozen uranium companies you're going to hear from, each have a very different, compelling story to talk to you about. But about half of them have got assets in the Athabasca Basin in northern Canada. So part of my talk is going to be to run you through the basin story, but also run you through why so many companies are exploring in this part of the world. I'm not going to go through the uranium macro. Scott mentioned it earlier this morning, and I'm sure you'll hang around for the uranium panel session later today with Guy Keller, but that promises to be a pretty exciting story. We're excited. We're coming into a phenomenal reactor build period. We're over a decade of virtually no investment in uranium exploration, and it's forming a macro which is pretty phenomenal. So please take note of the space, take note of the companies which are talking to you with a uranium asset. Now, Basin Energy, disclaimer statement, please feel free to drop around the booth and chat to me about that. But why Basin? What are we all about and who are we? So we're a pure play uranium exploration company. We listed around 2 years ago on the ASX. So ASX ticker code BSN. We're a small company. We've got a market cap around $14, $15 million. We're currently well funded. We did a cap raise a couple of months ago. At the end of last quarter, we had 3. We put another 3, so there's $6 million in the last quarter. We are actively drilling, and we're actively doing ground geophysics, and we're funded for exploration campaigns for the next few months for sure. We're going to talk about the Athabasca, but our projects are currently only located in the Athabasca Basin itself. This has been home to uranium mining for over 65 years, has been a top 3 producer globally for 45 years, and is home to the likes of the Camecos and the Oranos. This is a phenomenal district, phenomenal grades, phenomenal deposits. With that industry pedigree, we have a jurisdiction which is second to none. We have a framework in place which allows clear exploration, clear pathways to production. So not only can you explore, but you can also release value down the track should you have discovery. Jurisdiction is critical for any commodity, but especially for uranium. And I'll run you through the team. We have a solid background in uranium, both from a technical, operations, and commercial point of view. Now, the Athabasca Basin is shown on the screen behind you. I always like to compare this more for the Australian guys, the grades and the scales of the deposits that we have here. You know, in Australia, the biggest uranium opportunity is Jabiluka. It's about 350 million pounds of uranium at about 0.4%, it's about 0.5%. So 0.5% uranium, 350 million pounds. The biggest in the Athabasca being McArthur River, around 675 million pounds, but it's 17%. So the grades and the scales of these things are phenomenal. And that's why we explore here, and that's why when you find one of these, they are mined. Now, here is a cross-section, or a timeline, if you like, of time against discovery. So the horizontal axis is a time period, and it shows you the discoveries that we've seen in the basin since around the 1970s. But what I like to point out from an investor perspective is, from an exploration perspective, who has released value for shareholders over time, especially post-Fukushima, through exploration only. We look at that 2011 period, we still have phenomenal successes in the Athabasca, and the focus I'll bring to you is the story of NextGen, who I know are talking in the next day or two, so please listen to the story here. But this was a couple of Australians who went over, exploration focused on more basement-style mineralisation, $30 million market cap company when uranium spot price was sitting at $30, $40 per pound. Today, they're a $5.5 billion company off the back of exploration success. Quite clearly, these are the sorts of returns that you can get with credible discoveries. Not just them, the work that the guys at ISO have done, 92 Energy as well, who now are just merging with Arthur, who are here as well, chat to them. Fantastic exploration successes. Baseload as well, also here, and Canalaska, our joint venture partner. You know, only a couple of weeks ago, Corey announced almost 17 meters at 13.7% uranium. This part of the world is phenomenal. So you're very lucky, guys. You've got some phenomenal explorers in the Athabasca who are all kicking goals at the moment, so please make sure you have a chat to them. Now, the basin story, what we're a little bit different for here, and I think a bit of a differentiator, is when we were looking at projects sort of 3 years ago, we were looking for explorability. And one of the key things that we believe we have in our Geeky project is shallow potential for basement-style mineralisation. Now, the focus in the Athabasca has been looking at this geological contact unconformity And that's been the main model driver, is you drill to the contact, you drill just past it, and that's where most of the big discoveries have been found. There's been a real push on basement-style mineralization post the Arrow discovery. Note Arrow here, some 200 meters past the unconformity itself. But what does that mean to us? It means this contact here is perhaps not critical for mineralization. The eastern side of the Athabasca here has the same fundamentals, has the same rock types, has the same structures, but it's had minimal work done on it. So Basin has its Geeky project, which is here. Because it's outside the Basin footprint itself, nice and shallow. So all our targets are sub a couple of 100 meters. We went out, a relatively early stage exploration. We did geophysics. We were looking for structures, we were looking for rock types, and we went out on a mapping exercise, trying to really pin this geology story together as to how do you de-risk this as far as possible before drilling lots of meters. We did airborne mag, we found big structures. We did EM, we found the right rock types, and then we did a first pass drill program. So this was last year. This area hadn't been drilled for uranium before. Now, first pass drill program on the footsteps of some of the world's biggest deposits with a $15 million market cap company, 4 of our 8 drill holes hit anomalous uranium. So 4 out of 8. Now, they weren't all grade, but up to 0.25%. Thicker intervals of sort of 9 meters at a few hundred ppm. Proof that this system is carrying uranium. More excitingly, from a geological point of view and a technical explorer's point of view, is the scale of the structures and the alteration patterns we were seeing. We're seeing basement alteration, we're seeing 30, 40 meter thick structures, beautiful alteration patterns, the right system, the right styles that you see in this basement forms of mineralization. So we had a focus on 3 main prospect areas. Our Preston Creek and our Arrow Lake were the 2 that we found the most success with in that first pass. But we did stop drilling. We still had a reasonable amount of money in the bank, but we said, right, how do we de-risk this further, having proven a concept? We then went out, we flew airborne gravity with the idea of trying to map where these alteration patterns have been most intensive. And from that, we picked out a series of targets, both adjacent to our drilling and more regional. From that drilling, we'd mapped the right structures. We know what structures are carrying. We know what structures look to be fertile. So we're looking for overlapping results. That brings us to today. We're drilling at the moment. We've got a rig on the ground, and we're starting to systematically work through those targets and continue to build on this concept of the Eastern Athabasca being the home of the next discovery. Now, briefly, I'll mention our North Millennium and Marshall projects. So these are chasing the traditional style unconformity. So a little deeper targets. We're talking at 700 meters. We're about 40 Ks from MacArthur River, but critically, we're about 7 Ks from the Millennium deposit. So what we have here is a continuation of, sorry, that's the wrong slide, a continuation of the Millennium Fault, which we believe is the host fault for the Millennium deposit, about 7 Ks to the north. We hit a geophysical anomaly which looks remarkably similar to what they see at Millennium. Millennium being 100 million pounds for about 3.5% uranium. No drill holes have been drill tested into this before, so quite a compelling target. Now, we're trying to de-risk that at the moment. We've got a ground EM crew on site trying to pick out that rock type, trying to pick out that structure before we go and drill test this target. Nice tight cap structure. It's about 100 million shares in issue, as I mentioned. We're sitting with just over 6 at the end of last quarter with the cap raise. And our team that are driving this, myself, I'm a geologist, as you may be able to pick out. Uranium background, some 18, 19 years of uranium exploration around the world. Exploration manager is Odile Mofray, so she was formerly the project lead for Orano, running exploration programs in Saskatoon, Athabasca Basin specific experience. And Blake Steele, our chairman. So Blake formerly was the CEO of Azaga. Azaga being an ISR company with US focus, who was subsequently acquired by Encore Energy in 2022 for $250 million. Between the 3 of us, phenomenal uranium knowledge, phenomenal uranium experience, and we think we're extremely well positioned to make the most of this emerging macro in the uranium space. So I hope I tweaked a little bit of interest. Please feel free to swing around the booth and have a chat. Thank you.